Our acknowledgement also includes awareness of the release of hostages today. And while we understand there's a shift in Gaza, we hope that the ceasefire will remain. And we're here to hear from Consuelo Flores for our first session of the season, which is focusing the tradition of the Day of the Dead. And we're going to have that conversation facilitated by our own Rosa Garza-Mourino. Thank you so much. And we will welcome comments and questions in the chat anytime during today's talk, but also we will get to those after the first half. So I will pass it to you, Rosa.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. Consuelo, thank you for being here today again. So I'm gonna just frame a little bit of a conversation to get started. It's an important topic. So over the years, you have been teaching the Day of the Dead workshop for undergraduate studies very successfully. And two of our previous messy conversations have covered connections that you brought up, very interesting connections between the Day of the Dead, the idea of storytelling and social justice, those intersections. So we had that's under your belt for the last couple of years. And then and you have thought the Day of the Dead altar, our understanding is the Day of the Dead altar is a form of relational installation art that connects symbols that are very personal and spiritual, but also historical and political.
Correct.
And that element is such an interesting thing that connects to today's topic, that you chose to highlight the idea of the Day of the Dead grieves us as the mourners and a time of violence against immigrants and the criminalization of social justice. And directly connects to the idea of the psychological element of the altar as a healing trauma and that kind of stuff that you brought up with our previous preparing for today, right? So I'm going to stop myself and I'm just going to leave you with the first question that we were thinking about. Tell us more about the altars, how the altars bring to the forefront this idea of fortitude and courage and action in a context like the one we're living right now.
So if you see the immigrants that I have chosen to honor, who have passed, who have contributed to our country, you see fortitude. You see that they came to this country sometimes with absolutely nothing, and yet they made something of themselves, and they contributed to the betterment of our lives, of this country's existence, whether it was through the arts or through storytelling themselves or through medical accomplishments. Any number of these immigrants who came against all odds. So when we see them, we can definitely see ourselves. I can speak for myself when I see what my own parents went through to get to this country. I realize that I come from good, strong stock, and all we need to do is look to them to get inspired, and also to gain our own footing, and to absolutely understand that if they can go through all of what they went through and still come out on this side glowing, maybe not so much from the shine, but from the sweat, then we can too.
Thank you, Consuelo, for that context. We're talking about how the idea of a remembrance and bringing up memory of those that have been somehow either neglected, erased, or silenced help bring that to the forefront, and how the altars and the Day of the Dead highlights that element, restoring the humanity of people, recognizing the way you emphasize so interestingly, the emphasizing the achievements Uh,
In just as a quick aside, in Dia de los Muertos, there is a saying in Mexico that says, "Todos somos iguales en la tumba." We are all the same in the grave. And the more personal the story of that you see on the altar, the more humanity it brings to people. And the more of a recognition of our own humanity gets established when we see the stories, when we interact with the altar. I can't tell you how many times I've had note cards where people write, I wish you could see me, grandpa or grandma. Your love has always given me strength. Things like that, which anyone can write. Anyone can write. And when that happens, then we become that person that is mourning the other because we have that ability to recognize that emotion.
Amazing connection, amazing connection. Thank you, Consuelo. Would you tell us a bit about? You're reminding me of this knowledge that you shared with us a while ago about the three deaths.
The three deaths.
The idea of the three deaths, because it has very relevant for what you just said.
So the first death is when life ceases to exist. The body dies. The second death is when the body is no longer visible. Either people are buried or cremated or just we don't know where the body is. And the third death, and the most tragic, is the death of being forgotten. I know that that there has been some reference to Ofelia Esparza. Ofelia Esparza is I consider her my second mother in culturally speaking. And she's the one who is an amazing altarista. She can speak the names of 9 generations back. I'm Ofelia Esparza, my mother was. She was the daughter of, and she can go back 9 generations. And that is remarkable. Many people, I can only go back to my mother because my grandmother died before my mother was born. So that's a gift. It's a gift when you can speak the 9 generations and they will never be forgotten. So they will never truly die. Their memories will always, and now her children are doing the same thing and her grandchildren are doing the same thing.
And Consuelo, you were telling me about this and how it connects going 9 generations back or more when you apply that to remembering not just the family history, but history itself.
Exactly.
When you mentioned that this cyclical history of erasure, internment camps.
Internment camps, the repatriation of Latinos, Mexicanos, back, I guess it was in the 40s. I don't remember when the Repatriation Act happened, but taking people back, which was really kind of ridiculous. It's like taking people back now. We belong here. We were born here. We immigrated here. We are U.S. citizens, whether we were naturalized U.S. citizens like my family, or I was born here as a U.S. citizen. But the idea that I could be walking down the street and be scooped up and then taken back where? Where am I going back to? This is my home. So yes, this is very cyclical, and it doesn't just happen to Latinos, as you mentioned, the concentration camps, the internment camps, which were, they were horrible. One of the things that continues is the idea that people of color lose everything. Black Wall Street, where they went in and burned everything down. They destroyed, they being government that is in power that is very, very much racist, and this is a racist society to begin with. So we're already down a couple of notches, but it's destroying everything, and then having the people of color rebuild again. So looking at their resilience, at our community's resilience, we need to really appreciate how much we have come through, and acknowledging them on an ofrenda and thanking them and speaking their names and telling them, here we are, and we're going to continue what you started. That's very important.
Thank you, Consuelo. You shared with me some handouts of people that have been disappearing under when in custody. Do you want me to share some of those images that I put in a file for you?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'm gonna share them now.
So as she's doing that, the first group of images were the high profile. This group of images are people who have died in custody. And you will notice that they are all people of color, whether they're Asian. And just so that you know, the Asian community is also having huge ICE raids in places like Monterey Park and Alhambra, where the Asian community is larger, and they are. These are all children, and the mother and son on this, excuse me, mother and daughter on the upper left, though both of them perished. But these are all this is just a fragment of the children. It's just a small percentage of the children who died in custody. Most of them died due to the flu, because they were not given medical treatment. Medical treatment that, by the way, is easy to give and will more than likely heal them, but they were not given medical treatment.
We have this. I wonder you wanted me to share this as well. These ones. You already referred to this group.
Those are the first ones that you saw that were adults. They were actually given a little death card, for lack of a better word. These were images of other immigrants that I found that had not yet been given that death card.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, they're not just like you see. This is lower left he is Mexican, bottom middle is Asian, but the top are Central American and Cuban. It doesn't matter what background you are. You are susceptible just for the pure fact that you are Latino or Asian.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Consuelo. We can you're preparing a very important altar for this year. And
Yes.
and then you are serving as the chief curator of the entire Day of the Dead altars in St. Gloria Molina Park in Los Angeles. So I wanted to know if this is a good moment to share your sketch for the upcoming altar that you're creating.
And I also sent you photos of where it is right now.
Sure.
So the idea, so the theme for this year's Day of the Dead at Gloria Molina Grand Park is Let Freedom Ring, honoring our immigrant past, our immigrant ancestors. And so one of the things, the New Colossus poem is very important as a reminder. It does state, bring me your tired, or give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. So those banners that you see on either side of the Statue of Liberty torch, those are going to have that one part of the New Colossus poem. And on the sides along the where papel picado is on the bottom level, that's going to have liberty, freedom, you know, all of these words, liberty, freedom, peace, throughout on the bottom of that, between the papel picado. And in the middle of that second level, it's all going to be covered with pink and orange flowers. The bottom of the Statue of Liberty is going to be filled with sunflowers, and there will be, from the torch as well, will be butterflies, monarch butterflies throughout the entire altar. But the sunflowers are very specific, and the reason why sunflowers is because the sunflower is the flower of the indigenous people of this country. And one of the things that I've said is, unless you are native to this land, or you came as by force as an enslaved person, every single person on this in this country is an immigrant, including those in power right now. In fact, if we're looking at the whole thing with Bad Bunny and the halftime show, he is third generation American. Then Donald Trump is second generation American, and Melania is an immigrant. So, you know, this is very, very telling that this is all just a huge power grab. And my husband, of course, helped me with the build of this piece, but this is the torch that we made. And the bottom there where the wire is, that's where all of the sunflowers are going to go. So I expect to see every last one of you at who is in Los Angeles, attend the opening or closing celebration. There will be two celebrations this year. The first is on Saturday, October 25th from 11 to 4. And the second is on the actual Day of the Dead, November 2nd. And that will be Noche de los Muertos. And it is from 3 to 7 p.m.
Thank you, Consuelo. And I have a little announcement to hear on behalf of Julie Rodriguez, our own Julie Rodriguez, Antioch University, Los Angeles, with its own altar, preparing with metamorphosis, the topic of metamorphosis. Here it is, the information. Julie, thank you for sharing this information earlier. It's inviting community members to participate different ways to be involved too in the altar for Los Angeles, for Antioch University, Los Angeles too. And thank you, Consuelo, for always making room for this altar in the event as well.
It's important that we support each other, that I can offer the platform as a curator to whoever I want. And I do choose very carefully, because I don't want someone who does not understand the celebration to go in and haphazardly put together things from the Dollar Tree or Target. You know, that's just not going to happen. But I do acknowledge that curating is a very big responsibility. And I want to make sure that people understand that that's not an easy thing to do either.
Thank you, Consuelo. I keep thinking about our conversation on the notion of remembrance and the power of remembrance, that when you apply it to all these different aspects, that is just the life story, but the life of the community, and looking back or looking at the current, it offers a really rich tool. traditionally, when you grow up in a country like Mexico, for example, where this tradition first emerged in the indigenous roots, would be interpreted as having a way to honor your family, to remember your family, to cope with grief, and finding all these applications to social memory is part of the interaction of this tradition with other groups and other communities. So it's a great example of having this cross-fertilization about cross-pollination, cross-fertilization about traditions and how they start growing because of the participation of other people as well.
So this is a very unique and like really important opportunity to create community. Mourning the loss of anyone in our community can be very isolating. And so when you come together as a community to build altars together, or even to make the paper flowers that we make, it's sort of like a quilting circle, for lack of a better term. And you do share and you start to understand that this is a process that everyone goes through and we can support each other. No one should go through this by on our own. Like, it is not an easy thing to do. So short of going to a counselor, if you can't afford it, like many people in smaller villages, they don't know what a counselor is. What we do know is to process grief by putting together an altar, an ofrenda, talking about the person who we lost, sharing our memories with each other, and making sure that we connect on a, not only on a spiritual level, but on a human level, so that we have some grounding that will allow us to move forward. The other thing that I wanted, you said something, and I wanted to acknowledge that many communities in the United States that come from other countries have an acknowledgement of their dead. The US and England are the only two countries in the world that do not. And it is very telling that the US and England are the most cold, or the most easy. In the case of England, it's the most cold. They don't really show their emotions very, very much. And in the case of the US, I mean, how many presidents have we had that are just it's easy for them to decide we're going to go to war? Because there is no connection to other than Memorial Day, which honors our war dead. It's very, we do not acknowledge death at all.
Anything else to add, Consuelo, about your plans for this year altar, and any message for the community about your work?
So I will be, as I mentioned, honoring the immigrants, the high profiles who contributed greatly to our country, but also to the immigrants who died in custody, especially the children. And the question that I ask myself, and I keep pondering, and I wonder if anybody else asks this question, is how many of those immigrants that have died, how many of those would have contributed something that would have made a huge difference in our lives, a positive impact? Even just a simple act of picking the fruit that we eat. I have a friend that was traveling from Humboldt County down to Los Angeles just a few weeks ago. And she said there were field after field of crops that there was only one person that she saw in her entire drive down from Humboldt to Los Angeles. Imagine how many people we are not feeding because of that.
Mm. This reminds me, Consuelo, thank you for bringing this up. You remind me of something that we were talking the other day about these rates happening in workplaces.
Yes,
And workplaces are places where people are doing some important social function, playing a social function to provide a service or a product. And that's the place where they are like taken. So the symbolic element of just stripping someone from the opportunity to provide their product and their service.
exactly. And not only that, it's they, when they are taken from their workplace, oftentimes they have children. They have no idea where their parents are going or where their parents have gone. They just know suddenly they're by themselves. And it's the fact that people find it so easy to do that. And that's why I'm really happy when I see videos of there was a video of all women in Monterey Park. And the gentleman was riding a bicycle to work, and the ICE agents surrounded him, and the women approached, and they were all with their phones, and they surrounded the man, and they said, do not speak, just stay down, do not get up, just stay down. And they chased the ICE agents away. The women got together and they chased the ICE agents away. And that was really a wonderful sight to see. There was another one where it was they surrounded a little girl and they protected her, but they're going to schools and they're doing all of this. It reminds me of of what happened during, I want to say it was Prop 189, where they were attacking kids at their schools, and kids were curling up in fetal positions, crying, and they weren't able to cope. And this is just another page, another wrinkle. And so my whole purpose for this year, everything that I'm doing for Day of the Dead this year, is honoring, truly honoring and recognizing that those immigrants that came before us have greatly and positively impacted our lives, by and large, by huge percentages. And there, but for the grace of God, go I. I am a daughter of an immigrant. My siblings are immigrants, and I am only one of two in a family of 10 that was born here. And I have to tell you, dual citizenship is looking more and more attractive each day.
Thank you, Consuelo. With this, we close the first section of today's session and open to questions, comments, interaction with the audience. And here we have David. Would you like to represent yourself please?
Sure, why not? Thank you for the conversation so far, Consuelo and Rosa. So, there's so many ways I would like to get into this conversation, but I thought a good way is with the question that I posted, that how sometimes our dead are very present, and sometimes they're further away. They feel further away, and it's interesting to me how in different times of our lives, different persons, different of our dead come to us, and then other times they're further away. And I know it's a deeply personal question, but I wonder if either of you are feeling someone especially close this season, and if you could tell us some of their story.
So my father came first as a bracero. I don't know if you know what that is. A bracero, it was the bracero program during World War II when the men of this country were in World War II. They were soldiers. They were either they volunteered or were drafted, but they were gone. And so the crops throughout the country were rotting on the vine or in the soil. And abracero refers to brazos, brazos. So they were braceros. They used their arms to and hands to pick the crops and to pull the crops and to harvest the crops and to do all of that. He came first as a bracero during that time. My mother followed after. My mother came, my father started as a bracero and then landed in Los Angeles and became a slaughterhouse meat packer. And so he established himself here. My mother came afterward. She spent about 9 months in Tijuana as my brother and my father got all the paperwork together for my 8 siblings. But my mother traveled by train and by bus, and I don't mean a bus, I mean like an old broken down school bus with 8 children. And the youngest one was 18 months. They all got sick. They all traveled as in the worst conditions possible. And yet they made it here. And during this time, I remember them both because they came into a country that was very unforgiving. They had no language for this country. They had no known relatives here. They were completely on their own. They looked for anyone that they could trust, anyone that they could befriend, anyone that they could call on to be part of a community. And for them to do what they did, I think back, when I was 46 years old, the idea of starting completely new from scratch in a foreign country with 8 children just overwhelms me. And both of them did that. And I will forever be grateful. And especially right now, I honestly can say that I'm glad that they were not alive to see what has been happening to our community.
Thank you, Consuelo. We have a comment here, a question from Asa. Asa?
Yes, thank you. This is something that I believe you mentioned a bit in terms of people being taken or disappeared and kind of their community maybe not even knowing where they are. And I'm wondering if there are traditions related to Day of the Dead that might honor these people who it's kind of unknown whether they are living, but they're gone. So are there separate traditions for those kinds of losses, or is it considered, would you not want to include someone like that in an altar, considering you don't know whether?
Absolutely, you do include them. One of the things that an ofrenda traditionally that's the community altar. That is really the definition of the community altar, when the dead no longer have living to create an altar for them or an ofrenda for them. the community comes together to create that ofrenda and offer things that will not necessarily be specific to the person that has died, but it definitely an offering that the person who has either been disappeared or has died that we do not know. It's like honoring the soldier with an unmarked grave, right? It's the same principle, only you place food items, you place water, you place things that anyone could take and nourish from. That is definitely part of the tradition.
Thank you, Asa. Thank you, Consuelo. I would like on my end just to emphasize one aspect that is related to this response that Consuelo just gave, that is made a so powerful impact for me about this particular session. One of the most the problematic issues related to like what is happening right now with the deportations and all this is how easy it seems to strip a population from their voice, or rather populations that don't have a voice established in a community that they don't yet belong to fully. They're so easily tossed out. And the powerful element of the Day of the Dead is precisely how it can immediately, by acknowledging those, is a way to resist that disappearance, resist that political decision to put them or erase them. So it's a relentless tool to bring back something that keeps being tossed to the margins. So I think it's a very rich move. Yeah. Other comments, questions?
One of the aspects of Día de los Muertos is to make paper flowers or have papel picado. Anything made of paper is very fragile. It could be the most beautiful piece of art that you will see. And those are like the banners with the die cut images. Those are all made by hand. And that is also representative of how fragile life is. It is very beautiful, but the minute it is completed, the elements start to take their toll on them, on that paper. Whether it's the sun bleaching it out, the wind tearing it, the rain soaking it and making it kind of mush, or it falling on the ground and getting trampled. It doesn't matter. It is super fragile, and it is super beautiful, but it's also very fragile, and it's also very unique. No one sheet of paper is exactly like the other, and so that is very much representative of each life that we have. And so it's very important for us to recognize the fragility, but also the beauty of each life. Lisa, you have a question?
Hi, Consuelo and Rosa. Thank you very much. I do. Is the Día de los Muertos de Ofrenda specifically for acknowledging our dead or our missing people? Or can it also be cultural, such as our lost languages, our lost identity because of assimilation, our lost foods, our traditions that are lost? can ofrendas be an offering or an acknowledgement of who we are as a people?
So that's a great question, because this is something that I myself have grappled with. Dia de los Muertos is first and foremost Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So it is absolutely first and foremost about people. That is when the indigenous people started to do the ofrendas, they never thought that they would have lost a culture or lost a food or lost any cultural contributions. So it's very important to really remind ourselves of what the root of this celebration, where it comes from and what it is. That stated, even throughout the Europeans coming in and conquering, quote unquote, Mexico, and really what I call baptizing the indigenous people by the sword, despite that, we still have that the indigenous people still found a way to uplift the culture and adhere to some of the cultural constructs of the indigenous way of life. And it's very important for us to recognize that. Now, one of the things that I will say is that we do have an ability to riff, if you will, on our cultural representations. So I remember going to, and maybe not all of them resonate, because I remember going to Hollywood Forever Cemetery the very first year it started celebrating or doing an event for Day of the Dead, and I was mortified because right next to a traditional ofrenda that was honoring grandparents, literally right the next ofrenda was an ofrenda to honor the birds that carried the West Nile virus. And to me, that just I had to leave. I had to leave. There is the fundamental purpose of an ofrenda, and then there's a woman that comes every year to build an ofrenda at Gloria Molina Grant Park. And it's very important that we all acknowledge that sometimes our pets are family. And so she dedicates her whole ofrenda to pets. But there is a tradition that October 31st is the ofrenda for pets, for las mascotas de la familia, the pets of the family. And that's totally fine. When you start getting into the weeds about what we've lost as a culture, I think there's a separate way to acknowledge that doesn't impinge on the actual honoring of a person, because there's a very big difference between acknowledging the loss of a person in your family to acknowledging the loss of a food in your culture. Does that make sense? Where did you go? There you are. Does that make?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It very much makes sense. Yes.
Thank you for your question, Lisa. And Holly.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I loved how you talked about the significance of the sunflowers. And also when I look at all the art, I'm so drawn to the colors and the bright colors. I'm just curious if there's anything there from significance you would like to share with us.
So yes, there are 6 colors for the Day of the Dead. black and white, which is the duality of life and death. Silver and gold, which is the richest of life. And then orange and pink. So that's why you will see most all of my altars will have orange and pink. Orange is for the marigold. The marigold, I do this in my in-person class where I take a marigold and you open it up. And if you open it up, you will see that inside there is an abundance of seeds. And one of the things that I did, because a friend told me, just when the marigolds dry out, just get the seeds and just throw them, and let's see what grows and what doesn't, because often enough there will be at least a dozen plants that will grow from the seeds that you toss. And it's true. I did that last year, and more than a dozen plants grew. And so through death comes life, and from life comes death. And that marigold is very pungent. It has a pungent smell. It's believed to be the smell of death, but in actuality, it did cover the smell of death, because that's what, and in India, they do this too. They place marigolds all on top of the body to mask the actual smell of death. The pink comes from coxcomb. And coxcomb is basically an acknowledgement of death. It also has a lot of seeds in it. So you shake it like a rattle and the seeds just fall out. But those are the 6 colors: black, white, gold, silver, fuchsia, pink, and orange. And the fuchsia, pink, and orange are they are represented by the flowers.
Thank you.
Let's see. So Asa says you mentioned that you would be including. You want to talk about that, Asa? You want to?
Yeah, I mean, just because you mentioned earlier, in addition, there would be monarch butterflies as part of the decoration, and I know that they migrate long distances, including from North and South America over many generations. Also, it seems like there's probably a connection with the colors now that you've explained as well. But yeah, I was wondering if you could say a bit more about why
the-
monarchs. Yeah.
The monarch butterfly is also, it also has 3 stages. It's got, the caterpillar, the larva, and the butterfly. So there is a saying in Aztec lore that we are all asleep while we are living, and it's only when we die that we truly awaken. So we have the 3 stages of our own metamorphosis, and that is the birth, life, and death. And death is when we truly awaken. That's when we become the butterflies. But that is very much, they are also considered messengers, just like hummingbirds are, being able to take messages from beyond, from the other side of life, from death to life and from life to death. We have, I think, enough time for at least one more, maybe 2 questions or comments.
I was gonna ask you about timing. When do people usually make an altar, or is there not a specific time but a move that somebody feels to do that?
So traditionally, when you're doing community altars, you start the community altar maybe a week or so before, so people can come and bring whatever it is that they want to bring to the community altar. For me, let's see, you can't, let me unblur my video. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you could see that over there. Those are my sunflowers in the forefront, but in the there, that is my community, that's my family altar. And I never take it down. That is the first thing that goes up whenever I go into a new home, which we're going to be moving again pretty soon. But that is the first thing that goes up, because when that goes up, I'm home. I don't care where I am, I'm home. My family is with me, I'm home. And I never take it down. So in terms of timing for an altar, it really is up to you. Traditionally, you take it down just like the Christmas tree. Whenever it speaks to you, okay, you take it down. The week after, okay, you take it down. I never take mine down.
I was thinking about what you said about the United States and England being cold and not talking about death, or not creating community space to talk about death. And what you were just sharing just reminds me, like, when there's a ritual like that, especially as it's taught to children, there's a natural space to continue the conversation, which seems really valuable. And I wonder if this is always a part of the experience. Then I imagine that some of the challenges around talking about death and loss are more approachable, more common, more just more part of the conversation, which seems really valuable.
And there is an idea of sharing the idea or the concept of death with children. Um, I don't do anything with children anymore unless their parents have broached that subject first. But the concept of death is introduced to children with sugar skulls. The sugar skulls that you buy right now, don't eat them. They're not candy. They have glue in them. But there are sugar skulls that are candy that are introduced to children. And Clarence, you have a question or a comment?
It's actually a bit of both. In African traditions and certain religious practices, ancestral worship is very much a part of their lives. And I have friends who have practiced Yoruba religion and other persuasions, and they keep an ancestral altar up 24/7, always year round. And there's certain celebrations. I don't know the names, but I live close to Leimert Park here in Los Angeles, and there's an annual celebration. You probably know it. It is like the Day of the Mask. It's the celebration of the ancestors through ancestral masks, and that's done once a year. I don't know what month. I don't remember now, but I'm just seeing a lot of parallels with that culture and the African culture. Um, and I think it's because, the root is the root, you know? Um, we're all more alike than we are different.
Absolutely. It's typically done in June. The Festival of Masks in Leimert Park is typically done in June. So thank you for your comment, David. It was very nice, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, David.
I'm so excited to be here. So I keep I keep butting in. I'm sorry.
Please.
But as we're talking, and my understanding of Day of the Dead is more often than not, right? It's a deeply personal, um, connection with the specifics of our dead. And I'm thinking about a story of a soldier, Leonard Matlovich, who back in the 70s, he'd served in Vietnam. He'd won a Purple Heart. He came out as gay, and I think he was in the Air Force. And he got discharged because he was gay.
Mhm.
And when he died, he made a headstone for his grave without his name, and instead it just said a gay Vietnam veteran, right? So it didn't, not his name, right? Not Leonard's name, just a gay Vietnam veteran, as a I don't know what word to use, but an acknowledgement of all the gay Vietnam soldiers that right. And yeah, so I've just been thinking about that, and while it's not, he obscured himself for a larger community.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's not a question in here.
No, but that's a
Mhm.
very important contribution that he made. Um, it acknowledges the contributions of all gay soldiers who were never acknowledged, and that's very important.
Consuelo, we have a comment here about Jewish traditions. Andrea, would you like to represent your question, please?
Sure. I'm curious if Day of the Dead includes candle lighting, because I'm used to that in the Jewish tradition. There are certain times of year that you light candles, and it's usually a candle that burns for 24 hours and it's in memory, and you light one for each of the people. And I was curious if that's part of the Day of the Dead tradition.
So it is. The interesting thing is that so candles are the method that is used to light the way back home, along with shredded marigold petals, the scent and an incense. So the scent and the incense in the home, along with the candles, will always allow for the spirit to return home. The other part of it is that families will gather at the cemetery to welcome the spirits and help guide them back, and they will use candles now to light the not only for themselves, for the living, but also for the dead, right? The interesting thing about that is that depending on your economic abilities, you can either get the candles that are tall and are of pure beeswax, and those will last the entire time of the night, so that you can stay, stand vigil over the grave and welcome the spirits back. Or you will pay for shorter candles and only be there for a certain amount of time. Or you can pay for a combination of beeswax and other wax, like, or you can pay for the least expensive candles and the shortest candles. So it really is even in death, you still have an economic structure that is really remarkable to me, because you do have that to welcome the spirits, your family members. And sometimes people want to spend their money on the food that they're going to offer on the ofrenda rather than the candles that will welcome the spirits back. So it's kind of like it's negotiable, if you will. But yes, candles play a huge role in and on the ofrenda itself. And you have candles all throughout the ofrenda because that is how the spirits know where to go when they come in the house.
I want to acknowledge that we already passed a few minutes after the hour, and that we are going to remain here for as long as people want to hang out for a little bit with more common questions.
Well, who is Mark Hauer again?
Our Mark left, and
Yes.
he used to be our provost,
Okay.
and now is leading the what is the position? What is the name? The title of position? Sorry, CEO of the MAP program.
I see.
Yeah, I apologize if I don't have the facts of
That's
the
okay.
directory, but yeah.
But I'm very glad to have been able to share this year's sort of a different year for me with Day of the Dead. I say this every year. Last year was about, honoring the peace advocates. A few years ago, it was about honoring all the children who died in Uvalde, Texas. One of the biggest things that I really wanted for that particular altar is that the families of Uvalde, Texas know that their children were being honored. And on November 1st, the day before the show ended, a woman from Uvalde, Texas came and took photos and then tagged all of the parents that she knew. And so for me, that was an extraordinarily special moment. And that has been, a paper has been written about that altar and has been presented to many universities in Texas. So that was very, very, it was very moving for me and very, I think that art can be very healing. And this year is no different. Art has been such a godsend for many people, but it's also a way to push back and to show that we are standing our ground, that we are telling our stories, that we are going to be vocal about all of these injustices that we are experiencing as a community and as a society, and we will continue to do so. And hopefully through our art and through our shared humanity, we will make the difference, right? That's what we're hoping for. Thank you, Andrea. That's very sweet of you. Anyone else have any comment or question?
I would just like to thank you for bringing this to us again in a new way and in a relevant way for all of us. And also, just so excited to hear that you've got a full class of students that are going to engage in the practice with you, and that tradition lives here. And it's been a really important one for us. So thank you for all that you have brought here.
It's my honor and my pleasure. And I'm glad I have 16 students this year. This is wonderful. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share my passion and also to just share the importance of the art that we do as a community.
Asa, do you want to tell us about next time?
Yeah. As we wrap up, just remind you all about next week, which we are celebrating our 5th anniversary of Messy Conversations. So it's going to both be a bit of a look back on what we've done so far, what we've achieved, and the mini conversations we've had. We'll share some numbers, looking at how many hours of content there is out there and how many views we've had over the years, but also a forward-looking conversation on what people want to see out of this space. And as you can see this week, there's a lot of extra room for more people here. We could have additional students, faculty, staff, everyone is welcome. So would encourage you all to reach out and invite people you might think are interested in these topics and really try to grow this space in this community. And I also just want to thank Consuelo again. This was wonderful, and I'm so glad it's become a tradition at Antioch. It's a really powerful one, and one I hope continues for a long time. Thank you.
Been my pleasure.
And thank you to Rosa for your excellent facilitation, as
Yeah.
always.
Fun.
I love Rosa.
Likewise.
And as our former leader, David Tripp, would say, get home safely. And we'll see you next week.
Find a good
Parking's
parking
free.
spot.
Yeah.
Parking's free.
Buy one, get one next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.